Thank you very much, Chair. I suppose I'd just firstly like to thank Martina Mannion, Mary McGrath, officials from the Department of Education, I suppose NEPS and the NCSE as well here today. And really congratulations, I suppose, to everyone, to principals and teaching staff. Really great achievement getting all our students back into schools yesterday. And of course, with your statement there that was given, it's great to see the increase, I suppose, in government investment as well. And I suppose it's building on our previous policies. But with over 20% of the budget, I suppose, going towards special needs, I mean, that's allowing, as you've noted there, for nearly 1,000 extra SNAs posts. And you're looking at, another 400 special education teaching posts. And it's good to see that some of those are going into mainstream schools as well. And I know then we have the school inclusion model, and it's looking at sort of SNA training and sort of healthcare and educational supports. And I know that's sort of nursing, psychologists, speech and language, OTs. It's amazing to see how multidisciplinary it is when we have the supports in place for special needs schools. I suppose for me, the huge issue really is the lack of special education and special needs capacity for the area in Ballinasloe, which is where I come from. And it covers the counties of Galway, Roscommon, Westmeath, Offaly and North Tip. That's where the students come from, where the children attend these schools, come from a lot of these areas. But how are we going to use all of these extra posts when we don't have a building in our area to put them in, to put children in, and no space? And I mean, I suppose really, firstly, to acknowledge and thank maybe the offices of Minister Foley and Minister Madigan on the devolved project section for supporting 2 classrooms, most recently, just last week, for St. Teresa's Special School. But again, this school is waiting to find out about a site acquisition and where they're going to put a new school. I mean, they went from 11 students back in 2010, I think, up to roughly about 27, 28 last year. I suppose if I could ask for a brief response and maybe a minute for each of the questions below, and I'd appreciate maybe a follow-on written response if needed. But firstly, on infrastructure, just maybe for Eamon Murtaugh as Director of the Department of Planning and Building. But I suppose the question on the status of site acquisition for St. Teresa's School, what's the position there? Secondly, I suppose Scull and Queen Acres are DEIS Band 1 school, and it would take special needs classes, but it's been waiting 25 years for a new school building. It cannot take a second special needs class. So what is the plan for this area when we are trying to move forward? And I appreciate that we have that additional accommodation that will actually accommodate 10 students for September of this year, those 2 classrooms. So that's been a very important step forward. But we also have 2 major planning projects here. Just on summer provision, and if I could ask maybe Ms. Mannion if this is her area, but the plans for summer provision this year, you've mentioned it a little bit earlier, and we know that this has to happen this year, particularly with the need with lockdown. But how much of this programme is done in schools and at home? And if it's a voluntary programme, how and in what way, I suppose, are we supporting schools to take part? And I suppose with our 18,000 SNAs, I mean, is that going to, help support that programme as well for the summer? Just on CNO visits, if I could ask maybe Ms. McGrath, as per your statement, you're stating that allocations for SNAs will not be reduced for schools now for September 21. And it's really positive, that special teacher allocations will stay in place and SNA allocations, will stay in place this year. But if this is the case, do CNO visits still have to happen for schools this year for, say, the end of April now, May and June, especially as we're trying to reduce contacts and with public health guidelines? Thanks very much.
Okay, who's taking them?
Eamon, if you can start first and then we'll follow on.
Okay, thank you, Deputy. I'm aware of the ongoing site acquisition programme, our site acquisition for St. Teresa's Special School in Ballinasloe. I understand that is progressing well. The specifics of where it's at, I'll have to follow on directly with you just to give you the latest up-to-date position on that. But more generally, in terms of planning for SEND provision within school planning areas and across the country, as I would have outlined earlier, we work very, very closely with the NCSE in terms of the identification of schools who are in a position to actually take on special classes, and we'll support the delivery of that additional accommodation through the ASA additional school accommodation scheme. And longer term as well, we're planning a number of years in advance to identify those schools that have the potential to provide such provision into the future, and that's an ongoing process. But I'll come back directly to you on St. Teresa's Special School in terms of progress of that site acquisition.
That's good news. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Martina here again. Just to advise you that in relation to your question as regards the breakdown of the summer programme between home-based provision and school-based, there were over almost 30 13,800 children participated in the summer programme last year. There were 3,800 of those in the school-based provision and about 9,000 in a home programme at a cost of over 18 million euros. That, as you can see, where the balance is largely towards the home programme and less in the school, is part of the issues that we are working through in terms of ensuring that we can make the school-based programme more attractive for schools to run. It is a voluntary programme because it's obviously run outside the school calendar year, and in that context we are engaging with the stakeholders as to the kinds of supports that would make running the school programmes attractive for them. So, for example, reduction of administrative burden, streamlining the payment processes and application processes, and then putting in place supports around how to support those in the run-up to the programme and in the delivery of the programme. So those are the kind of issues that we're working through. Obviously, our focus in the department in the special education area has been right through is getting the children back to school, obviously, as quickly as possible, and we're very pleased that the children with special educational needs were prioritised for returning. So special schools are back since the 11th of February, special classes are back, and then all of the children are now back since yesterday. And now we're working through in terms of how this summer programme might work, and also to ensure that it is greater focused towards school rather than home-based. But I think the home-based is also important because it will remain an important component of the programme, and it has worked successfully for over 9,000 children last year. So it will remain an important component of the programme as well.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mannion. Thank you.
Okay.